Hi, it's Glenn Dietzel here, Editor-in-Chief of Lifestyle Entrepreneur Magazine, and I'm really excited today to have time to interview Gary Spire, the CEO of Dialoger. He is a crowdfunding expert. You are going to learn a ton today, and he is also the author of Crowdfunding, the Next Big Thing. So, Gary, thank you for availing some of your precious time here today so that you and I can connect and I can ask you a few questions around crowdfunding.
Hi, nice to meet you, Glenn. Nice to meet everybody.
What does crowdfunding mean from your perspective, Gary?
Well, crowdfunding is really raising money online. There's a big confusion because some people think Kickstarter style, which is for donations, you're not giving up equity. So people confuse crowdfunding with that. But under the Jobs Act, which was passed in 2012, it really pertains to equity-based crowdfunding, which means people are giving up ownership to get money from investors and raising that money online.
What makes you uniquely qualified to speak on raising capital in the digital age?
Well, my career has been as an investment banker. I'm licensed under FINRA and the SEC. I've raised capital all my life, and I would say about 7, 8 years ago, it became clear to me that capital would be raised online, and raising money online has a lot to do with online marketing and understanding how to communicate your transaction online. So I spent many years putting together all the components, and when I wrote the book, and the reason it's been running #1 or 2 on Amazon since the beginning of the year is because it connects all the dots of how all these pieces come together, and it can be confusing.
Congratulations, by the way. Why do you think this is so absolutely relevant for entrepreneurs today?
The reason it's actually not only relevant, it's transformative. It's a ground floor opportunity. People hear the word ground floor and you go, oh, another ground floor opportunity. But when you look at two converging factors, anytime there's a change in the law and it's connected to the internet, it's going to be a seismic shift. And the ability to reach out to entrepreneurs across the world and the ability to connect with investors is just mind-boggling, and we haven't even scratched the surface of what's happening in real estate. It's anything. So this is an entrepreneur's dream.
Uh, uh, cool. That's all I can say. Especially when, as you mentioned, we're on a kind of a, if you will, a whole new paradigm around access to capital and to investing money. How does your system work for helping entrepreneurs then access that capital through crowdfunding so they can grow their businesses even faster?
Well, part of I've always thought myself to be somewhat of a visionary. So when I looked at the space and I realized in some form years ago capital raising would come to the internet, I also realized that it would have to be automated. So I created Dialoger to be able to automate the process of raising capital, and then have tied courses around that to walk people through steps. So I came up with different steps that I've used, and one of the things that has separated me is in 30 years I never missed raising capital for either my companies or for my clients. So I took that system and said, how would you, in a sense, move Shark Tank online and be able to automate the process? And I think that the system I've created is also game-changing and exciting, and I think accelerates entrepreneurs so they don't have to be confused and say, what do I do step by step?
What is the #1 mistake that you see entrepreneurs and business owners making when it comes to raising capital?
I think the biggest misconception is people think if I just get my deal up, then they will come. And the problem is they don't. 90% of what you do to raise money is actually in the setup and is done offline. So how you organize and put together your campaign, if anyone here has done product launches or other ways that they've marketed their companies, there's a lot of pre-work. And if you set it up right, what happens is when you go on, it's the empty restaurant syndrome. If you go up and you just put it up and no one's there, then they think something's wrong with the deal. So what the smart marketers do is they're already raised X amount of capital. So when they launch, somebody says, "Oh, look, there's interest in this," and that they've already have the momentum. And a lot of attracting capital is not only in the deal, but how it's presented, and that you're creating a sense of momentum. Because the biggest thing that an investor doesn't want, he doesn't want to miss out on the next big thing. That's his big fear.
Right, right. What's the one question that you would love to be asked about crowdfunding that you've never been asked before? And what's your answer to that question, Gary?
I think the biggest misconception is people don't start with themselves. They're looking out and saying, "Oh, if I just did this or that." But the biggest problem is that you really can't come up with whether crowdfunding and what type of crowdfunding works for you unless you know who you are, because that's going to dictate the strategy. And so people are looking outward when they have to look inward.
What's the first actionable step that you recommend that our viewers take right now?
Besides buying my book, um, so the first step is really to sit back and think strategically and say, look, what do I really, what's the outcome? And if I went into crowdfunding, do I want to be exposed to a number of people looking over me every day? So the first thing is to start with yourself and say, what would this mean to my life? And do I really want to do this? It seems cool, but it takes a certain type of person. And I always go back and I say, what outcome? And what do you want to do? And write down 3 or 4 reasons you'd want to do it, and then write down the reasons you wouldn't want to do it, and start with yourself. And then I think a lot of answers will come to you. But if you don't do that, you're just going to see the world as being very confusing.
Gary Spira, thank you very much for availing us some of your precious time, and thank you for your words of wisdom.
Thanks. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.